Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are tuned to the Nighttime Podcast, focused on the fringe of Canada.
Hello Nighttime listeners. I have something quite heavy for you this episode. The story we're going to hear involves a raging house fire, 3 deaths, a dramatic police takedown, and a successful use of the controversial NCR, or Not Criminally Responsible legal defense. The story takes place in January of 2015 in a small community outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia. And the unfortunate people who get to star in this tragedy are the Hennigars, a close-knit family that have felt cornered by Canada's treatment of its mentally ill long before its family members began to die.
The whole front row is missing from my life.
In January 2015, Chandler Hennigar's life changed forever. His brother Codey was suffering from untreated schizophrenia and killed their mother and maternal grandparents.
All I have is the picture and the memory in here.
Chandler says his family tried over and over to get Codey help through the mobile crisis unit and even calling police, but he says the help he needed never came.
It really hurts because, it's sad when you see someone that really needs help and you know that they're not a bad person and that they deserve that help and it's not being given to them.
Tonight, in this episode of Nighttime, I'm going to take you along with me for a coffee and an emotional talk with Chandler Hennigar, the young man who has become the voice for the surviving members of his family. And our topic is his brother, Codey Hennigar.
Hi, my name's Chandler Hennigar. I'm 31, soon to be 32. I'm taking care of my mother's family homestead with my sister for the last little while. I have a dog and a cat. They're Roxy and Annie. I named the cat after my mother. And Roxy is in training to be my PTSD service dog and also an epilepsy service dog.
Oh, wow. Tell me a bit about your family. Like, what kind of family do you come from? What kind of people are the Hennigars?
Well, I come from 2 different family names in my opinion. That's the Hennigars and the Wards. And on both sides, they're farming families, hardworking families, got carpentry and law enforcement and military on both sides. Very passionate people when it comes to their family, I'd like to believe. We try to stick pretty close as much as we can and help each other out. And, I don't know, I think I got a pretty good, evenly balanced skills from both sides of my family. I'm proud to say that I'm from both of them.
Good. Now, you mentioned your sister, but we're going to get into talking about your brother as well. Were there just 3 of you in your family, as far as kids?
No, there's four kids. We all have the same mother. 3 of us have the same father.
Okay.
And our younger sister has a different father than us.
Now Codey, is he your older or younger brother?
He's my older brother. I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister.
Yeah. Now, Codey, you grew up with him as closest siblings, and we know now, people who know this story and know about you and your family and Codey know that he would go on to be diagnosed as schizophrenic, I believe.
Later on in life, we kind of knew that he had it before he actually had an official diagnosis. The doctors could only make speculations because he didn't want to. He wouldn't accept or receive the help,
mm-hmm.
and they couldn't force him because he was over, the legal age, he was in his 20s. So it's a sad world we live in that your own family members and the cops that you call to come try to help you one day, they're standing there saying it's sad, but he's going to end up having to kill someone before that he gets help, before we can force him to get help.
Wow. So when did you say you had a belief beforehand that something was up? When did it start that you realized that something was up with Codey? Was there...
I mean, he was always troubled, a lot more troubled than me and my brother. In high school, he experimented with some drugs. I mean, we all do. I think he probably did more experimenting than us, and that can take a toll on your mental health. And I know that people can be influenced. Like, sometimes mental health issues don't come out of nowhere. We know that he was troubled, but we didn't realize how bad it was, I guess, till he was... I think he was, like, around the age of, like, 25, 26 before he started to really notice, like, something wasn't right. Yeah.
In which way? Like, how, like, did he seem paranoid? Or, like, what was it
He seemed very angry and very paranoid, and he was saying things that didn't make sense sometimes. Like, he thought his girlfriend at the time was cheating on him, and that the kid that she was pregnant with wasn't his, and so he kind of disowned his daughter, and he hasn't really been in her life, and it is his daughter.
Wow.
Like, you know, it looks like him and everything, like, and they were going through some tough times because I think his mental health, he thought something was going on or something, accusing her of cheating. And he went up there all fired up one day, you know, all pissed off. And I said, you shouldn't go up there like that. It's not how things turn out well, right? You should stay here and just calm down a bit. And, you know, he grabbed a hold of my throat, and I said, well, fine, if you're going to try to choke me to death, go ahead and leave, like, you know.
Sure.
And I called her and warned her, and sure enough, he went up there. He was freaking out at her and trying to take the baby, trying to take her outside in the cold.
Wow.
Yeah, there was these signs in that, but I mean, you start to wonder if somebody's really as crazy as you think they are, and whether you see them acting crazy or not, because sometimes you wonder if it's just them letting their anger get the best of them.
Yeah.
You know, if they're overthinking things or whatever, or, you know, letting their emotions run them. I think that he knows what he's doing when he's doing it, but he can't control himself. Like, he's just too angry or something.
It's been said that your family, like, went to, like, lengths to get him help, and you talked about it yourself, he couldn't be diagnosed or without voluntarily doing it. Was this, what you just talked about, one of the situations that led you to try to get help? And
that was one of them, yes.
Yeah.
And then another one was when he was living in the area at the time, and my mom used to help him with things, and he stopped in one day. I was living in the area too, but I was working at the farm down the road, and Mom called me on her phone saying, like, that he was there threatening to burn the house down with her in it. So I told the boss, like, I gotta go. My brother's threatening my mother. I don't know what he's doing, but I gotta go talk to him, right? Like, and I showed up, and he's just sitting there. It's like, it's almost like his eyes were black. You could look in his eyes, and it was like nothing was there. It was like you were looking at something just like evil or something.
Wow.
Like, you could just tell by the way his eyes were glazed over. Like, he was looking through me, like, flicking a lighter. And I'm going, what are you doing, man? And he's like, what the frick are you doing here, man? Like, and it's like, Mom called me. You're freaking her out. You just threatened to burn the house down with her in it. Like, you know. And I said, well, like, man, you can't do that. Like, I'm gonna have to, like, if you try to do that, I'm gonna have to stop you. He says, what, are you a big tough man? I said, no, you're a big tough man, and I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do, right? Like, and I stood there, and I think it scared him, because I didn't show that I was afraid. Yeah, I was a little scared. He's got, like, you know, a foot and a half on me. Like, he had at least 100 and something pounds. Or at least 100 pounds on me, because I was probably like 125 or 30 pounds at the time. I think I'm only like 130 or 35 right now. Yeah. And he was like 230 pounds. You know, like, but it's my brother, and I wasn't going to hit him unless he hit me, and I just stood there. I didn't move, I didn't budge, and I just stood between him and the doorway so he couldn't go in the house.
Wow. And how did that end? What happened?
He stopped about a foot from my face. His fist was up, ready to hit me, and he just is a foot from my face. It's almost as if his eyes had life come back into them, and he started to just basically crumble. Like, he backed away and started crying. Wow. And he was like, oh my God, and I'm like, you all right now? You know that we love you? Like, you know what I mean? And he's like, he's just like, I'm sorry. You know, he was just like, then he just started freaking out in a different way. Like, he wasn't freaking out angry anymore. He was like freaking out and hysterical and crying. And wow. And he said something about he couldn't go into the shed to get his stuff and leave. I told him that the cops was already called. And he, you know, if you want to get out of here, you get out of here, right? And he thought the shed door was rigged with a shotgun.
Wow.
And that if he pulled it open, it would shoot him. And I said, no, it's not. I mow the lawn here. I take care of it. There's, and then he thought there was landmines in the lawn. I said, there's no landmines in the lawn. I mow it. I don't got time to be putting landmines down in there and taking them out.
Wow.
And I said, look, I'll get the door for you. You just stand back. I'll get the door. I'll show you. It's safe. There's nothing going to happen. I'm opening the door, and he just thought. So it's like, you start to wonder, is he pretending? Or is he really thinking this? You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of hard to tell at first.
Yeah, I could see why.
Because he didn't... It was almost as if, like... Yeah, he kind of crumbled when he realized what he was doing, but then he became immobilist. Like, he couldn't move once he realized that the cops were on the way. He didn't want to touch any doors or do anything. Like he started acting really crazy, like, when he realized they were on the way. So that's why sometimes I wonder if he really is as crazy as he is. Like, yes, obviously... in my opinion, any person, no one's below mental health. We could all become mentally ill.
Yeah.
If we don't keep ourselves in check.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I wonder if that was like just a show because he knew they were on the way, or if he really was. Deep down, I'm like, okay, he's obviously not right in the head in some way, but just how much? Did he play us all for a fool by getting away with this like that on NCR?
At the time this all happened in January, he was living in your grandparents' like shed or garage or something.
They had a cabin, like a little cottage on their property, and they let him stay there.
And what this arrangement of him living there, where did that come from? Did he just need a place and your grandparents stepped up, or?
Well, my granddad, several months back in the spring or maybe the summer, he had his kidneys had started to go into failure. He had a really bad heart, and it was only running at about 13% at one point. And then his kidneys started to go, and they said that he wouldn't last the week. Wow. So everybody was visiting him in the hospital. We thought he was going into kidney failure and he was going to die. And Granddad said he seen everybody except for Codey, and that he wanted to see him because he felt that the last time they had spoke, they had an argument or whatever, and he wanted to make amends with him before he had passed. So I told him that I knew where he lived, and if he wanted me to, I would go get him. So I did. I kind of feel bad. I kind of wish I had said no. Hindsight's better than foresight. But I went, and I got Codey, and I told him that Granddad was sick, and that I was here. If he could get ready, and I'll take him to go see him and bring him back home. I did that, and Granddad had said to him he was sorry. They made amends and they talked and they were good with each other. And he said, if I could help you again, I would. He said, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get the chance to do that. And he says, but I promise, if I make it through this, I'll help you. And then he made it through it. And some odd months down the road, around Christmas, Codey needed help. He needed a place to live. He didn't have anywhere to go. So Granddad told him he could come there as long as he would help him out with some things, and he would pay a little power or do some work to either pay for the powers. They needed someone to help them. So Codey started helping them, and he was supposed to pay, and I guess he didn't pay them. And Granddad cut the power off. And then I guess he come up to the house all angry. I was supposed to come down that day. I ended up coming down that day anyways, but it was not for a good reason. Yeah.
So it was January 7th. So if he moved in just after Christmas, so he was only there weeks then. So it was...
Yeah, it was like Christmas Eve, I think I saw. There was still stuff of his on the back of Nanny and Granddad's truck that they were unloading.
Whatever happened in the house on January 7th, how did you find out that there was a problem? You said you were supposed to go down there, but ended up going...
I knew that he was there already, and I knew that, Nanny was worried about it, and Mom was worried about it, and that he was being, he scared them, right? I knew all that, and I just, I figured, oh, well, they'll call me, they'll let me know, and I'll have time to get there, I think it was around 5 o'clock. I was sitting down to take my first bite of my dinner, and I didn't even put the fork in my mouth yet, and the phone rang. And it was my sister calling from Mom and her house. I answered, and she says, "Hey, do you know where Mom is?" And she sounded like really upset. And I was like, "No, I was going to call you guys soon after dinner here, and I thought it was actually her calling." And she said, "Well," I was like, she's probably just stopped in at Petrocan or Sobeys to pick up some things on the way home, or she probably stopped in at Nanny and Granddad's. Just call over there, or call her cell phone. Don't worry, I'm sure she'll be home. Like, I'll be there after I eat dinner." And she's like, "Well, that's why I'm calling," because, and then you could really tell, like, her voice started, "Well, that's why I'm calling, because Mom's car's over at Nanny's, and Nanny's house is on fire." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I just said, "Nikki," as soon as she said that, I knew. I knew right then and there. I knew that something happened, and Codey did it. Codey hurt them, and the house is on fire because of him.
Wow.
Because my grandparents Nanny was afraid of fires. Her and Granddad were always on top of cleaning the chimney. So in my mind, I just knew. I didn't know details, and I didn't need to know the details of what got from A to B. All I knew is that if there was anybody in that house, they were dead. They were hurt. Something. But when I pulled up and I seen it, I knew for sure. If anybody was in there, they're gone.
So you went right there?
Yeah. Soon as I got the call, I didn't even finish my dinner. We just shoved the plates in the fridge, didn't even wrap them up, nothing, and left. And went, because I had to get to my sister. I told her, as soon as she said that, and I knew, I just said, you stay in the house, you lock all the doors, turn off all the lights. I said, he shows up, you call 911 right away. As you try to hide, have your keys and your cell phone ready. If he comes in one door, you go at the other.
Yeah. So you get over there, the house is on fire.
It's completely engulfed in flames coming out every window. And best way to describe it, I'd say, is a cold day in hell. Standing there looking at that house, I had no words came to mind, nothing. I just started crying and fell to my knees. My hands in the dirt and the snow. I was thinking, they're all gone. Every single one of them. Doesn't matter if you got a fire suit on or not. There ain't nobody going in there to save them.
Yeah, it was like
And
blaze.
by the time I had gotten there wasn't anybody else going back in the house. They had went in and they found, I had already knew before I got to the house that two of them were found and pulled out of there before it got too bad. And the other one was in there the whole time. They couldn't go back in. And So it's just... And I asked a police officer, and, they're still doing their investigation and whatever. And it's like, what happened here? Did my brother do this? Was it a chimney fire? Was it, how were they killed? Like, he's like, oh, it looks to me like smoke inhalation.
Okay.
And I just went, okay. I shook my head because I already knew.
You didn't know, at this point, you didn't know who was in there? Like, you assumed it was your grandparents and your mom in there?
I knew that they pulled out because I got the call by the time I got to the first roadblock, but I had to drive around it. The first roadblock was down by like Antrim Road, and I had to drive up through Antrim Road and go out. I got to the next roadblock, which was right before my mom's house, and I said, luckily I knew the person. And so they knew I was serious when I said this, and I pulled up, and it was like one of my friends that worked for the construction company that they had blocking the roads off. And I said, you know me. You know that's my mom's house. That's my nanny's house. And I said, whether you move that gate or not, I'm going through it. They were like, it's okay. They were crying too. So was I. And they're like, I'm going to move it. And they moved it. And I said, thank you.
Wow.
And went, and my aunt had just showed up just before me to get my sister. And then we all went to go meet at the church, but I had to go see for myself and speak to an officer. So I went down. I must have drove past like dozen different police vehicles and like other service vehicles like ambulances, like a mix of them, like a dozen of them. No, not up one person in any of them. Until I got closer to the house, like the second driveway. 2 firemen were running up and they're like, they're taking off their clothes. They had to get like 40, 50 feet away from the house just to get out of the heat.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Like I could feel the heat from there. And they're like, you can't be here. What are you doing? Like, you got to stop right here. I was like, well, I want to see. That's my grandparents' house. My mother's in there. I didn't want to speak to an officer. Like, what's going on? What do they know so far? Kind of thing. He said, you have to stay right here. I'll go get someone for you. So he went up to go get someone. And then he come up and he told me that, what is caused by yet, but it seems a little suspicious. I don't know. We're looking into it. Well, how'd they die? Oh, it looks like smoke inhalation to me. Like, you know. So.
And at that point, you had no idea where your brother was?
No, I just assumed he was somewheres with my nanny's car, and that I was hoping that my nanny and the dog were with him, that he just, like, took them with them. Or maybe that nanny was already out. But there was always that heavy weighing thing in the back of my mind that was telling me she's in there, and if she is, she's gone. They were looking for him. They were looking for my nanny's car.
It was safe to say he had it if he wasn't in the house. Yeah.
Yeah, he had it. He had taken it and was driving around. And, I guess they found... He didn't even find him that far. He probably could have made it, like, to a different province. But, you know, found him just... I think they found him in Milford somewhere, and he ended up smashing into the police cruisers where they had a roadblock. Like,
wow.
Like, several times. He, like, rammed them, backed up, rammed them, like, you know. And then when they took him in, and they took him in a little rough, he was to my uncle was a cop. He says, "You think we could get them in trouble for that, being a little rough with me?" No. What did you expect?
Yeah.
You expect police officers not to roughly detain you after you just brutally kill people that you love, and then roughly smash your car into all their police cruisers? Like, what do you think was going to happen? Like, you thought this was a friendly game of bumper cars? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I deal with things in humor, don't mind me.
I'm the same way, so we're on the same page. Yeah. So after they get him and he's arrested, I'm sure police were interviewing him and trying to figure out what happened. Were you in the know about this as it was going down?
Yes, I was actually one of the people that they took a statement from on, like, things that I knew, like, about my brother. Like, they were trying to piece together things and past things that were said or threatened. And I mean, they still called it, even if what he was going to get charged with would have been second or third degree, which was, it's not planned, it wasn't pre-agitated, and I find that really offensive, actually, considering he threatened to burn down my mom's house with my mother and my sister in it. Now, I mean, just because it's a different house, one of the people was still involved, and it's the same type thing. To me, that's like saying that it was not preemptive or that it wasn't pre-planned is like a kick in the face. It's like, oh, thank you.
And how much earlier was that he threatened your mom?
A year, maybe a little less.
Okay. And after his arrest there, did you think about, like, mental health, or were you thinking more like he just got really mad and did something?
Well, some of us clearly had thought that he was really sick and just needed help. And then some of us thought, okay, yes, obviously he does have issues, but he's not... I don't think that he's that sick. Like, I think that he was just... He knew what he was doing more than he said he didn't. You know what I mean? And then there are some people that believe, no, that he's not sick, that he just planned all this.
Wow.
So, me personally, I think that he's not as sick as he's letting everyone on to think that he is.
At what point did you learn what actually happened? Was it not until this made it to court that you learned about, like, you talked about, the power getting cut off and the argument and stuff? When did you learn that this was what maybe set it off?
I mean, I kind of learned some of those type details just by talking with family about what was going on before. But I didn't learn the actual details of how he did it until in the court.
Wow, okay.
Or should I say just before the day that we had the court, because the people with victim services sent us. They're like, okay, well, this is the stuff that's going to be talked about and said in this court. We don't want you to be caught off guard. It's going to be gruesome, so if you don't want to hear those types of things, don't. You know, they gave us a heads up to make sure we knew what we were walking into type thing. And, I mean, to me, I had already guessed as such. I figured what he would normally do is either grab a hold of somebody's throat or hit him with something. And sure enough, he hit him with something. Like, I didn't really need a cop to tell me what my brother would do. You know, I know him. And that's why I thought it was doctor sitting there in the court talking about how, if a person's personality isn't this way before they become within the age to be mentally ill. I was like, how do you know what my brother's personality was before he was of the age of mentally ill? You didn't even know him when he was of the age of mentally ill. I did. My brother was a bit of an asshole before he became the age to become mentally ill.
Well, it just sounds an awful lot like the story you told me about him threatening your mom. It just seems like it's kind of a mirror, or it could be seen as kind of a mirror of that playing out, perhaps. But leading up to like it going into a courtroom, he was charged with 3 counts of murder. He was facing at that point. Did your family, because your brother's a part of your family still, like, was there communication with him leading up to this? Or were you kind of 2 separate camps?
At first, we were kind of 2 separate camps. Dad had to go in and sign to get him force medicated, and you know, Dad and our other nanny and our aunt go and visit him here and there. And I mean, I've only gone to see him a couple times, and it was mostly just to clear the air or ask questions that other family members wanted to know, or to tell him, like, you know, something like, I don't care who thinks differently about me because of this, but I went in there to ask for my sister why she had to grow up without a mother. And I went in there to tell him that I took his Christmas gifts back that me and Mother bought him. We spent $100 on him combined. I picked them up for Mother, and we both wrapped them. And when I told him I took his Christmas gifts back, I said, you can be mad at me all you want, just like other people can. I didn't think he deserved them. I didn't think those nice gifts that we bought him, that we spent all that time picking out and making sure he had nice warm socks and long johns to live back in the cabin. Yeah.
Now, what about going into the trial? Like, were you hoping to see this end with like him being convicted of murder and going to jail? Like, what were you hoping would come out of this?
I was hoping that, you know, he would get the help that he needs, which, I mean, you know, they're saying that he did, but I wasn't thinking that he was going to be just out walking free on the streets before we're even done cleaning up the mess that he made. I mean, yeah, it's my brother. I love him. It's family, but it still doesn't change the fact that no matter how much you love that person, you're never going to trust them again. They just did the most unthinkable, unforgivable thing. And no matter how much you love them or how much you want them to be rehabilitated, them being out free on the streets just like that, not even any remorse or anything, regardless of whether they have remorse or not, it still don't make people feel safe.
When all this happened, you had kind of your intuition and some stuff that the family said you had a pretty good idea of what happened. How was the story actually delivered in the courtroom? Like, did he confess and give the information?
No, he gave a confession to the police, but it was never released out what he had confessed. It was stricken from it because he was trying to get on being mentally unable to withstand. He was trying to get the NCI.
Yeah.
So then that was stricken from there. And he actually did give a statement. It was never read out into the thing, but it was actually said that he gave it.
Okay. How did it come out what had happened? Like, actually what went on in the house before the fire? Like, because it's like I've read articles which kind of summarize it. How did that story come out?
Well, I mean, different different statements from different witnesses were taken, and there was like my uncle was driving by earlier today, and like bits and pieces were pieced together from different people's accounts of what was going on.
So it didn't
my uncle drove by going home from work, and he said he saw him standing at the end of the driveway, staring up at the house. Just randomly, weirdly, just standing there like a statue, and you just thought, that was weird, right? You know?
But it never came out of from Codey. What happened in the house, or
no,
No.
It never came out fully in court, not from him. He said it to the police, but the police, because of the lawyer, they weren't allowed to say it in the court. It was stricken from the courtroom because he was now going for NCR. So we've never had the full answer. All Codey has ever said to us about it is that, I thought I was saving the world. I thought I was changing the world. I thought I had to do that. Like, it was just bullshit. It was like, and he knew. He was like saying, "Oh, they're listening in. Oh, on the phone." Like, he was like all worried about. And I'm like, I don't care if there's bugs in the phone or not. Like, I don't know. To me, I just think it was a well-played act.
Yeah. So now, what do you know about what actually went on in the house? So we know there was the situation with the power being cut, leading to an argument. Do you know what went on in the house aside from there was a fire?
They know that he would have come in. That my mother and my grandfather were found by the rocking chair and wood stove. They were hit in the head with a blunt object several times. And that they could tell that there was gas poured on part of their body and set on fire, the way that the clothes were burnt and melted. They knew that it was gas that he had used. It started in the basement, but I mean, he had poured, like I said, he poured fuel on them. They found, later on, they had found my nanny and the dog together in the living room area, so I assumed they had said someone was trying to call 911. There was a 911 call made from the house. And they think that it was my nanny in the living room trying to do it, and that maybe Granddad and my mom was probably trying to stop him from hurting Granddad and got hurt herself. Nanny was probably on the phone trying to call 911, and they lost the call, or, he probably hung up and then set the house on fire. So he said, in the courtroom, he had said, he had his backpack, and that he had some water in there and his hammer for work, going to work at the mill, but yet he didn't work at the mill. He had worked at the mill for a while. And you don't need a hammer when you go to work at a mill. You don't really need anything. Any proper mill that you're going to work for, if they don't have the proper tools they need to do all the mill and the safety gear for you, don't work for that mill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that, you don't need to be taking stuff like that to work. All your tools and your safety gear should be there. Like, so they should supply it.
So the trial happens. Ultimately, he's found to be not criminally responsible.
Yeah.
What was the reaction amongst your family when this happened? Was there any relief that he would maybe now, get help and get to come out, or what were you thinking?
There was some of the family, but sadly not as much as you would think, that were happy that he was getting help. I mean, because some of us knew that, we know the way our system works. Some of them are like, oh yeah, he's getting help, he's not going to jail, and this and that, and they think that that's exactly the way that it should be. They don't realize that there's a problem with that. How can you say that someone who just was so mentally unstable that they killed 3 people that they love is now rehabilitated enough to be out on the streets 5 years later? To me, it's just like, this is creating a very problematic scenario for us. And especially since this is the only province that allows people who have the NCR ruling to still profit off of a person's death.
In which way? Like through...
Let's say, in this example, he killed his mother and his grandparents. Now, if there is any inheritance to be said to be had for him from those, because he got NCR, he can now still get them.
Wow. That doesn't
But every other province, you're not... Let's say if you get NCR, but you killed someone and you are entitled to inheritance from them, you killed them, you don't get it. Doesn't matter. You're not allowed to profit from a death, NCR or not. I find that that's ridiculous that Nova Scotia is like the only province that has that still standing.
After his NCR ruling, he was in a hospital for a period of time, or some kind of...
Yeah, he was in Dartmouth, East Coast Forensics Hospital there, down by Burnside.
Yeah, and over the years, it seems like he's slowly been getting increasing freedom.
Yeah.
And it's often been you representing your family, speaking out, basically opposing these freedoms. Like, what is it that's motivated you and your family to speak out about him getting freedom? Like, what is it you're trying to prevent, or what is your fear?
We don't want any other family to have to go through this ever again. It is the most terriblest thing that I've ever had to go through in my entire life. It's affected and changed our whole lives, our family. Like, it's like a hand came down and just grabbed half your life away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if not more, your whole world. So in a sense, yeah, he changed the world, all right. He changed our world. And some people like to think that him having to live with the guilt that he killed the people that he loved is enough punishment for him. Well, I'm sorry, because everybody else that loved them, too, now has to deal with the fact that their loved one killed their loved one. And we didn't do a damn thing. So you know what? We're still getting the same dish of punishment that you're getting, but we didn't do this. So in my opinion, no. I don't think he should have had day passes. I don't think he should have been going to the movies with his group. It's like, I'm sitting at home trying to take care of my own place and my mother's house and all the mess that he created, and I can't afford to go out to a movie, but this guy's going out and getting a movie paid for him. So, to me, him just sitting there saying nothing, having no remorse, letting people speak for him, and he wants more freedom. When they say that he should ask for it, he asks for it, or he'll request them to ask for it. So, it's just like... And he wants all his old stuff back. He wants to go to do all the things that he used to do. And it's like, you can't just go back into a community where you murdered people and expect it to be all hunky-dory. And then he wanted to be able to go out there and work. And it's like, no, you're worried about people accosting you or being rude to you because of that, but you want to go back to the area where it happened? Like, no. So he had to stay in town here. But, I mean, it's just... It's a bunch of craziness. Like, the whole way that the system works, it doesn't... There is no justice in the system. It's a joke. It's like a slap on the wrist. There you go, buddy.
What kind of conditions does he have now? Is he free as you or
Yes.
I?
No, well, he's as free as you and I. He just has conditions. He's not allowed to go out around that certain area. He can't go to certain people's addresses that don't want him there. He not allowed to use substances or drink or anything. Not allowed to have weapons or anything on him. You know, there's all sorts of things that he's not allowed to do like that. He has to make sure he checks in with his doctor and takes his medication. People will be checking to make sure he's taking it. As soon as he messes up on one of the conditions, he has to go back to the hospital and start all over again.
Now, like, when you hear of a murder, people will think, like, hopefully someday Chandler gets and the rest of his family members get closure. It almost seems like the idea of NCR, it almost made it, like, not a crime.
Yeah.
So, like, how...
That's what it feels like. It kind of does feel like that. It feels like, oh, okay... You're not criminally responsible because you're mentally ill. So, it does kind of make you feel like, oh, you're just pretending as if that never happened and that we just have a sick person here that we need to help. And that's it. And it doesn't matter that any of these people are dead. You know, it doesn't matter if more people could be dead. And we've been mostly speaking out a lot about it, not just because we don't want this types of thing to happen to people. We would like a lot of things to be changed. Like the fact that why do you have to wait to force medicate someone until someone kills someone? I get it. Oh, if you're an adult, you have to sign consent for yourself. But there should be some sort of gray area that states if someone is threatening to kill themselves or others, that's it. That's where we got to draw the line. There has to be some sort of gray area. It can't just be like that anymore. And to have someone get NCR and then you possibly got to give them inheritance money from the person that they wouldn't even be getting inheritance money if they didn't kill the person. Like, because if they didn't kill the person, the next week after that, a will would have been done up.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or, you know, if they didn't kill these guys, even when their grandmother died, they wouldn't have got nothing because it would have went to their mother. It's just stupidness.
I guess the idea of closure, it's almost in like the wound must still be wide open because it's almost like you didn't get.
Pretty much. He doesn't have to answer for it. He doesn't have to speak on it. He doesn't have to say he's sorry. He doesn't have to show remorse or nothing for it. He just stands there blankly and he just gets to walk away freely. That's it. And we're all still standing there like we got this weight on our shoulders and someone's just taking it off of his and throwing it at us.
And what about when you look back at the things leading up to this that failed or maybe could have prevented it? It seems like you think the big thing is, you know, people knew, the police knew he wasn't well and nothing was done.
Lots of people did. Even our old boss at the farm, he went to the church. He was like, is there something we can do for him? No, we can't force him to get help. Unless he wants the help. I can try to get him help, but it's like he's sick, he needs help. Like something's not right. You know what I mean? Like, It's not just, you know, when it's not just your family, when it's not just cops that you're calling to bring there, it's everybody can see it. Everybody can see it, and there's not a damn thing that anybody can do. Until they really hurt someone really bad or they kill someone. The sad truth is that 8 times out of 10, unless someone's getting killed, nobody gets help. Nobody gets made to get help. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Now we'll force them to get the help. Now it's okay. It's like, how do we know that they just didn't continue to not get help because there was nothing wrong with them and they knew that was the only way they could get away with murder?
Yeah, and it seems like the situation he's in now where he's like closely monitored, has these conditions, required to take medicine, it's like that's exactly what needed to happen before.
Yeah.
But you could never get that kind of help for someone until they kill someone.
Yeah. And the doctors were even saying, oh, well, he understands the rules and he's following everything that he's doing everything that he has to do. It's like, yes, that's because he's been force medicated, shoved into this place where he's under security, not allowed to leave. And he knows that just as long as he follows all the rules and does everything that you tell him to, he'll get out. And eventually he could just go do whatever he wants. And there isn't anybody else that he could kill and profit from. I find it hilarious that the only person that he could kill and profit from is the one that he did. And got away with it. You know, we've been trying to write letters to Justin Trudeau on that. We're going to write more. We'll write as many as it takes to try to change these rules. Like, force medicate someone before they kill someone. Then we're not in this mess.
Yeah.
You know, or when they get NCR, you shouldn't just let them walk out free after 2 to 5 years. There's so many different things that could be changed so people don't have to die in vain. Or die at all. You know? They were good people and they did nothing but help people and that's what they got for it. They were trying to help him and he killed them. There's some people, there'll never be enough. Like the day he tried to burn down Mom's house was because they wouldn't let him use the laptop.
And, you know, through our talk, you talk about, you know, he's my brother, I love him. I can get that, and like that could never change. I'm sure that'll never change family's family. But what kind of relationship do you have with him now? Are you in touch with Codey?
No, not really. We used to be a lot closer, but since he started threatening people, we've kind of just slowly drifted and since this, I don't really want to be in his life. I don't really want him in mine. Like I told him already, if I ever have a wife or kids, you're not going to be in their life. You're not going to know their names or where I live, ever. I said, if there's any part of my life that you're going to be in, like, I might visit you here and there, like on your birthday or Christmas, once in a while, but it'll be me coming to visit you where you live.
And is that because of...
I don't trust him.
That's it?
I'm not leaving anything open for him to come and bother me and be pissed off at me and hurting me and my family. I don't trust him. I love him, but I do not trust him.
I think
But, yeah.
I may end it on that, but is there anything else we didn't get into that you want to? I think we covered a lot of the bases.
I think we did cover a lot of the bases. I'm hoping that maybe some sort of official within the mental health board or the justice system will hear this, because not only, there's similar things happening everywhere. It's like, look what happened with that guy. And I mean, he seemed to be a nice guy who actually helped people. He was a denturist. He was going around dressed up like a cop, and he ended up killing one of my neighbors. Like, no one's above it or below it. Anybody could be influenced or pushed, or they could snap. Mm-hmm. So I guess everybody keep yourself in check, and try to fight for what you believe in. And if there's something that you think needs to be changed, which me and my family believe there needs to be a change made in this system, and I'm hoping that that's what this does.
How can people listen, like people listening who want to see that change, at least the change that you can't profit after this type of event? What can we do?
I don't know. Spread the word. Maybe share this link as much. Maybe somebody from Justin Trudeau's office will hear it and think maybe we should listen to what this family might have to say, because not only does it tie into all these different types of killings or things of mental health that have been going on, they're going on all around us. They have been. And I think it's time that we make a change for it, so it's not so easy for people to want to just snap, because these people think that they can get away with it, and they can, because the way you have it set up, it's all too easy. I feel like there's probably half the cases of NCR out there that those people aren't as crazy as you think they are. They're just smarter than you. Look at that stupid thing. There was something on it was a TV show that came out about this person who was going around killing cats and then started killing people.
Luca Magnotta.
Yeah. I was watching that the other day, and I'm like, this sounds all too familiar. Look at this person. Like, this person's smart. Mm-hmm. They're messed up, but they're smart. Mm-hmm. Now, my brother is messed up, but he's smart. Mm-hmm. His favorite movie was Primal Fear, and he just did. He made his life the movie. Mm-hmm. Wow. And same with Luca Magnotta. He made Basic Instinct their life.
I want to thank you for joining Chandler Hennigar and I in this discussion. I've covered several stories in the past in which the NCR defense was used. Some examples would be Rohini Bisasar, who successfully used it, and Rocky Rambo Waynam Kam, who unsuccessfully tried. But what was never discussed was the complicated situation the victims' families are left in. In the case of Chandler Hennigar's family, it is all the more complicated, as not only was the man responsible for the death of his mom and his grandparents not criminally responsible, it was a member of his family. It was his brother Codey. And then, to think that Nova Scotia is an outlier on rules surrounding someone who is found NCR being able to profit from the deaths, it's simply an unimaginable situation. As Chandler mentioned in the episode, he is speaking out because his family wants to see this changed. If you want to add your voice to their cause, I've added the address for the Canadian Prime Minister's office in the episode notes. Chandler and other members of his family have sent plenty of letters, but maybe it's yours that will help get the message across. And with that, we'll end this episode of Nighttime. But before we part, I want to end with some thanks. First, a huge thank you to Chandler Hennigar for taking the time to share his family's heartbreaking story with us. And next, I want to give a massive thank you to the great band who contributed the musical theme for this episode. It's an instrumental version of a song by Disappear Forever, a band from
Fargo, North Dakota.
If you want to hear more of them, check out their album Treasure. It's produced by Trevor Breeson and available on Spotify and most major streaming platforms. I've added links to Disappear Forever in the episode notes. And lastly, but most importantly, a huge thank you to all the listeners of Nighttime. Without you, this show would have seen the light of day many moons ago. If you want to help keep the lights out here at Nighttime, let me suggest the premium feed. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can support the show and access a separate feed in which the episodes are posted earlier than in the free feed and are done without paid advertising. But beyond the regular episodes, the premium feed also includes additional content that will take you even further down the rabbit holes. In the case of this episode, the additional content will be my full, unedited conversation with Chandler. For reasons of length, significant portions of our talk had to be cut out, and I'm sure many of you listening will be interested in what else he had to say. You can support the show and access the premium feed at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And with that said, let me thank the newest members of the supporter group. Veronica, Janet, Andrew, and Susan Kiwi, thank you for your generous support. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show but can't help financially, you can give me a big hand by telling your friends about me and leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or whichever equivalent you're using. If any of you listening want to stay up to date with my activities on or off the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I use the handle @NighttimePod. If you have any story ideas or want to give feedback on the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can find my contact information on nighttimepodcast.com. As well, if you want to share your thoughts on this story or the NCR defense, you can send me a voice memo for inclusion in some of the bonus content. There's a link on nighttimepodcast.com in the contact section that'll allow you to do that. I hope to hear from you. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and stay safe out there.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte. Copyright Jordan Bonaparte.
While you wait for the next episode of Nighttime, let me recommend some music to check out and a very special band to support. My city, Halifax, is proud to be home to Dog Day, a garage rock band that, in my opinion, is one of Canada's best. Dog Day haven't released new material since 2013, as the band's lead creative duo, Seth Smith and Nancy Urich, have focused on filmmaking, like their critically acclaimed 2017 film The Crescent. But Dog Day are back. They're now accepting pre-orders for their 7th studio album. It's called Present. If you're into gothic synth rock with a bit of hook-oriented indie punk thrown in, you're going to love Dog Day. I've added a link to them in the show notes.